Yes. Okay, we are recording. All right, we'll get
Hi
started.
guys.
Hi everyone. Thank you for joining our holiday, I guess, Q&A. I'm Tammy. I'm actually in the East Coast for the holidays, and Jonas is in Germany. So
Ho ho ho! Merry Christmas.
happy holidays. See, you see a placement right there, right? Had to put the Christmas tree in there. Yeah, so different countries, different continents, but we are here to go over questions that have come in recently. Yeah, we'll get started. So Expat Launcher assists expats coming to Germany. We help with everything from pre-move to everything in between to getting settled, including permits, visas, health insurance, setup of bank accounts, phones. Missing anything, Jonas? You can chime in.
No, that sounds pretty much like what we do.
One-stop shop of everything to help you. One place to come for all the information, guidance, support with everything. So let's get started with questions. I feel because we're not live, so I'm always like, yeah, just drop your questions in the chat box. So it's different this time. So let's go over questions that have come in over the past few weeks since our last call. Of course, COVID, right, Jonas? We're still dealing with COVID.
Yeah, our favorite topic.
Yeah, not so fun, but really no questions, not that many updates. So for example, I just came back to the US. The major change from Germany coming into the US, for those of you traveling, would be that ages 2 and up entering US will need a negative COVID test no more than a day before. So I did mine. I left around like 10 a.m. I did mine at 12 the day before. Got the negative test, super easy, but they are checking. So at least in Hamburg, they're checking. Coming from the US there, just follow the guidelines. They are, it's still open. They do say that, restrictions, you should be coming only when it's necessary, because Germany, unfortunately, is kind of considered a higher risk, but you are still allowed to enter if you have the vaccine. Of course, the negative test is also very helpful. Not only that, right, Jonas, for airlines. So,
by now they probably should be on par, but some airlines still require it. So just do the test.
It's better safe to do it. Easy enough, right? The major change with COVID, I know Germany is pretty strict with the Christmas markets. Nuremberg, right? They're not having it.
Some parts of Germany don't have any Christmas markets, but I think by the time we are releasing this video, the Christmas market season is over anyway. So
is it right before Christmas, right? They shut down.
Yeah, it typically ends on the 23rd. Yeah.
Okay. So this will post right before. So hopefully when you're posting, if you have not been to a Christmas market and you can go, it's amazing. No, I can't go. So that's why I'm like, oh, Glühwein. One thing we should mention in regard to some changes that are happening for the EU is the ATIAS. Am I saying that right? The European.
That's right. Yeah.
Did I say it right? The European Travel Information Authorization System. What that is basically a short online form that has to be filled out. You get approval first. It's not anything to do. If you still need a visa, you still need to apply for that. If you can come in tourist free, that's still the same, but you will need to do this. It is going to start rolling out in January 2022, but it will take them a while to kind of mandate it. So we expect it to be mandated by January 2023. As clients for Expat Launcher, we will help you apply for it. Super easy, quick. Yep. Very similar to what, say, German citizens need, right, going into the US before.
Yeah, the ESTA, you apply, you fill out an online form, pay a little fee, and get the confirmation that you are allowed to enter. It's not a visa process, it's an additional step to your just allowing you to enter the Schengen area.
Yeah, and I think it's good. I mean, actually, it should have been done. It's more security, right, for the EU to make sure they know who's coming in, and it's easy enough of a process. So
yeah, I think it's kind of a
extra step.
Yeah, they're following. Yeah, I mean, it's like before US citizens were allowed to come into Germany without any steps, and German citizens coming into the US always had to do it. So I think it's like one of those things where they just want to have the same level of bureaucracy.
I could see that. But we will assist our clients with that easy enough when, in beginning the new year, moving forward. So a question that came in, let's get started with questions in the sake of time. First question, and I think we've seen this in a few places on social media posts, tends to be a question in regards to freelance and employment when it comes to teaching. So the question is it easier to apply for an employment teaching permit rather than freelance? So I don't know, Jonas, do you want to jump in?
Specifically just teaching?
Yeah, it looks just like it came in for just teaching. So let's just use that as an example.
Okay. So when we're just talking about teaching, most people will be starting as freelancers. There's both options for, English as a foreign language. It's mostly freelance, not that you can't get employment, it's just what's offered out there on the market. And then there's just way more freelance positions. So in 90% of cases, that's what you're going to go with. A little bit different if you work with children. So if you work in a kindergarten, then those are much more employment contracts where you will be going the employment route. Which one is easier? It really depends. The employment process has a little bit more steps because it's not just the foreigner's office involved, it's also the employment agency. At the end of the day, in smaller towns, the employment process is maybe a little bit smoother because they're more used to it. In bigger cities, it shouldn't make too much of a difference. Just you need to be over a certain hourly average of the area that you're in. So that's very important.
There's more
that's
factors,
one thing that
right? Like there's more factors for freelance versus employment. So I think that's,
Yeah. And in terms of health insurance, you will typically, there's exceptions, but typically in a freelance situation, you will be in the private health insurance system. And as an employee, you will be in the public employment system. So in that regard, you don't have that much choice, but your employer will set up the insurance for you. And if you're employed and if you're freelancer, you have to take care of it by yourself.
I think another thing too, what we find with our clients is if they're going the employment route. So most, like Jonas said, will be as a EFL teacher, you come in as a freelancer, you get set up. That tends to be smoother in a lot of cities because they're just more familiar, depending on smaller towns. And then if you find that perfect employment position, that's a good time to transition, because if something doesn't work out with the employment and you still have a valid permit for freelance, you just fall back to freelance, right? So some students or teachers rather, if they can't get that first time employment right away, freelance is a smoother route, can be for finding jobs, getting, applying. I think the trick to employment, as I see people post like, oh, super easy, just done, you'll do it. And there are extra steps, like he said, there are multiple agencies involved. It certainly is possible. I think the trick when you are applying to schools for an employment, especially, is to ask those schools if they have other teachers that are foreigners, that are non-EU nationals that work there. Because if they say yes, that's all we hire, that's a majority of who we hire, that's your cue that they know how to fill out the work contract, they know typically the necessary documents for the authorities. If you have a school, and we see it, right, Jonas, we see clients go, oh, I just got employment and the school's never hired anyone, they have no idea what to do. Then they need a little bit more hand-holding, I feel like, with those schools. But comes down,
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, it comes down to the school being sure that they know how to create the documents and how to make it work. Okay, good question. Let's see, next one. What things should I consider about the timeline for getting started? I'm assuming, let's take this as the 90 days tourist free, someone enters. What are things that should be considered?
Okay. The two things that in our experience take the most time is finding an apartment and applying for jobs. So that's going to affect your timeline. If you already know someone in Germany and you're moving in with them and you don't have to go on an apartment search, or you're one of the lucky ones that is able to secure an apartment before you come here, that's going to make it much faster. Yeah. When it comes to the housing process, we typically recommend people to start looking 1 to 2 months in advance and not earlier. And also the same for applications if you're looking for jobs. So you can check out, we have a playlist for a housing tutorial how to do that. So look into that. We're going to get more into the details. But just for the timeline, typically 1 to 2 months before you want to come, you can look at these things and start applying for apartments, start applying for jobs. And if you're able to secure something before, then you technically could apply within very short time frame, within 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Yeah. It wouldn't take you that long. But most people actually, in our experience, need the full 3 months.
They do. I mean, if people, like you said, if they don't have a friend, they don't have a place lined up, they have to find the jobs, the housing. It's yes, you can find it before. We have plenty of clients that are very proactive and do stuff before, especially when they go into more of a temporary housing. They do maybe a place that they can move in, suitcase ready. Yes, they're more expensive up front, but you can move right in, get settled, start, getting all the other stuff done. We've helped people, like 4 days, and after 3-4 days after arrival, done, apply, like super quick. But majority of our clients, they need 60 to 90 days to get everything lined up and organized. I think the other thing to consider too in the timeline is the application process and then the waiting to work. So you have to factor all that in. I've heard, there's so many mixed messages on social media and Facebook groups and people's one-time opinion that I think you really have to take that with a grain of salt, because it's not the same for everyone. The offices are very different from state to state, city to city, district to district, even down to agents, as we know, processing. So just allow yourself time to process. I mean, we're seeing, for example, for employment in Hamburg, in some of these offices, we're seeing them say, okay, you submit it, and at a minimum, we're going to get back to you in 5 weeks. So things are just a little bit longer, but I think if you anticipate that waiting time, then yeah. That's a tricky part, is people think, I get here in 90 days, I can start working and everything. Some can, some can't, but you have to wait it out, unfortunately. Okay, next question. This jumps into your housing tutorial. I've been watching your YouTube housing tutorials, very helpful. Thank you. In one of them, Jonas mentions a template for during the search. We will link that in the housing tutorial for the email template that you can use during your search, maybe to reach out to landlords or roommates, I guess maybe what it was for, but we will link that in the housing tutorial number 5, I believe it is.
Okay, thank you for letting us know about that. Thank you. We're glad it's hopeful. We're glad it's helpful, and we're going to link the template, so that should be in there shortly.
Awesome. Another question, I think you've touched base on it, speeding right through these. It's much quicker when we're not live, right? Was employment health insurance versus freelance. I think you've touched on that a little bit, but I don't know if there's anything to add to that if you want to, or.
Yeah, I mean, maybe in more detail. So if you're self-employed or a freelancer, the rule of thumb is you will be in the private system. Private system is very detailed. There's so many different options, ranging from very cheap to comprehensive. Lots of lots of variety that you have there. The only few times when you will be able to get into the public system as a non-EU citizen is if you're married to someone who is already in the public system. Then there is a chance, not in all cases, but then there is a chance. Or if you have been previously in the last year insured in a different EU country in the public system. So then you could also transfer it. But remember, as a freelancer, to get into the public system, you always need to get a key to get into that door, so to speak.
Golden ticket.
The reverse situation, the golden ticket. Yeah. To be honest, a lot of people want to get into the public system. A lot of people want to get out of it. There's pros and cons to both. It really will depend on your individual situation. So you can't really say one is better than the other. There's pros and cons. On the reverse side, as an employee, you will be generally in the public system, but there's exceptions to the rule. And the main exception as an employee is if you earn more than 62,000 euros per year. In that case, you have the choice to opt out and get into the private system, because that will be much more affordable for you. But that just maybe adding on to what I said previously.
It's extra steps, right? But hey, it's good to consider if you're looking at the options. I think that's absolutely, yeah.
And we offer free consultations. Just go to our homepage, contact us, and schedule one of those, and we'll be happy to help.
And I'm a little biased, but I think it's actually really helpful, because when I first started, I had no consultation. It was like, oh yeah, you can use this, and I go, and they're like, no, you can't, so I think it's really helpful to have that consultation. And like Jonas said, he'll go over your individual needs, and as well as the needs of the foreigners office. I think that's really important too, that all foreigners office, not all, but majority of foreign office, they do have different requirements. What works in Berlin definitely doesn't work in Hamburg, and vice versa in other cities. So
that's true.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. And yes, if you have questions other than even health insurance or general inquiries, please submit or go on our website at the Contact Us page for a free consultation. We will have a little bit more limited hours over the Christmas holiday, but we will be jumping right back into this right after the holidays as well. You can also email us at info@expatlauncher if you have any questions, and we will get back to you at that point. Let's see, going through two more questions, actually one more question. What should I include in, or what should a school include in a letter of intent? So
good question.
So I just had this with our clients, a question. So I think it's important that you provide a letter of intent with enough detail that it makes it easier for the authorities. So at a minimum, we need your name, we need to know your title, freelance English teacher, freelance language teacher, freelance musician, whatever it might be, and pay rate, your expected pay rate, and your expected hours. I think the big thing for letters of intent is that's exactly what they are. They're non-binding. It's the intention to bring you on once you have your permit. So if schools get a little hesitant with filling it out or putting hours on there, you just have to remind them that it's not something that is binding. It's just the expectation that if you, once you get your permit, that we might be able to give you X amount of pay, X amount of hours. Reason why, Jonas, why you want to answer why they need a letter of intent for calculations, financials?
Yeah, that's exactly why.
There can't be any surprises, right? So if you go to the authorities and you give them 2 letters of intent, we all know that freelancers, you need a minimum of 2, let's say teachers. We work with a lot of teachers. You need 2 letters of intent from 2 German-based language schools. If you don't provide expected hours or expected pay rate, then there's no calculation that the authorities can do for you. So that's really important to the authorities to go, okay, what's your reason to stay in Germany? What do you anticipate to make? And let me do the calculation based on a lot of different factors that, contributions, rent, health insurance, social stuff, stuff like that. So if you guys have questions on letters of intent, yeah, feel free to email us and give you a little bit more information. Just big key reminder, your name, your title, pay rate, and expected hours is should be sufficient. We do see some smaller offices also want to see a contract. So you just need to know your city and what they expect from you. That's the most important thing. But overall, they should take the letter of intent. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
And plus, a contract's more binding, so you want to be careful that you are going into a school that you want to work for. If you have a binding contract, most contracts with enough notice, you can get out of as a freelancer. As a freelancer, you are tied to your title, right? There's a law code for you, but what you were issued, freelance English teacher, freelance musician, photographer, whatever else it may be, that's the work you can do. You're not tied to a specific company or school. You do have to work multiple schools, so there is no, the fake self-employment, which we all hear about. Employment is tied to a company. So that would be, a big difference, that if you do have employment and you quit your permit, what happens to your permit when you quit? As a freelancer, if you decide that the one school is not a good fit for you, as long as you are continuing to work with other schools, you're good to go. Easy. Always feel like there's live, right? I always feel like there's communication from our past calls that people are chiming in. Right now, it's just you and I.
Waiting for chats to come in.
I'm waiting for Q&A questions to pop up in the chat box. But that's all we have for you guys this round for December. Keep it short, sweet for holidays. We will be back in January, potentially with a live call, depending on where we are in the world and what's happening. But we post monthly. We do monthly Q&As. Like I said, for our clients, we host client monthly calls. We do the free consultations for general inquiries, health insurance inquiries. So you can definitely find us. Social media, email, website. There's no shortage, right?
Contact us. If you're watching this on YouTube, which you probably are, subscribe to our channel, hit the little bell, leave us a thumbs up, and yeah, comment, send us your questions, and we'll be happy to get in touch with you.
Awesome. So, and we do work with all types of permits, which is helpful. We were specializing for a long time in mainly freelancers, but we work with employment, dependents, language, students, blue cards, all of those. So we can assist you with all the different types. Embassy, applications, visas, we could go on, right? Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Happy holidays, happy new year. And we'll see you in the next video.
Merry Christmas, guys.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Giannis, bye. I'll see you soon. Bye, everyone.